let's talk about a book that did way more than just tell a story. It basically became this cultural phenomenon that completely changed the game for the modern thriller. Of course, I'm talking about Gillian Flynn's razor-sharp novel, Gone Girl.
This right here is the question at the absolute core of the novel. It's the kind of question that grabs you on page 1 and, trust me, it does not let go.
So the story kicks off in a way that feels familiar, right? We see what looks like a perfect life, a perfect marriage, but we all know that looks can be deceiving, and in this case, they're fatally deceiving.
The setup seems almost simple. It's the morning of their 5th wedding anniversary, and Nick Dunne gets home to find the door open, signs of a struggle, and his wife, Amy, is just gone. Almost instantly, the police and pretty soon the entire country are pointing the finger right at him.
So why does everybody turn on Nick so fast? Well, it's because he plays the part of the guilty husband almost a little too well. In front of the cameras, he's just awkward, he smirks at the worst possible moments, he's cagey with the cops. For a media culture that's hungry for a villain, Nick Dunne fits the bill perfectly.
But here's the thing. Just as we're getting comfortable with the idea that we know who the bad guy is, the novel pulls back the curtain and shows us its real genius. This isn't one story, it's two, and they're basically at war with each other.
And this is where the book's structure becomes a weapon. We're getting Nick's side of the story in the present, as he's desperately trying to prove he's innocent. But at the exact same time, we're reading Amy's diary from the past, which paints this picture of a loving wife who's getting more and more terrified of her own husband. These two stories are on a collision course, and as the reader, you are trapped right in the middle. This brings us to the engine that makes Gone Girl run: unreliable narration. It's this idea that we're being told a story, but can we actually trust the people telling it? Both Nick and Amy are constantly shaping their own versions of the truth, and the book makes you ask over and over again, who's lying? Or maybe, who's lying more?
And then, right at the halfway point, when you are absolutely sure you've got it all figured out, Gillian Flynn delivers what has to be one of the most incredible, legendary twists in modern fiction.
Suddenly, everything you thought you knew about Amy's disappearance just starts to dissolve.
This isn't a missing person case anymore. No, it becomes this vicious, really intimate game of strategy and cruelty.
And in this game, truth isn't something you find. It's something you create. It's something you use against your opponent. The truth is, boom, just like that. Amy is not the victim. She is the architect. She's the mastermind. She spent months planning this brilliant, terrifying revenge plot, weaponizing her own disappearance to frame her cheating husband and send him to prison. The entire game has been flipped on its head.
So, with that massive truth bomb out in the open, the novel completely transforms. It becomes this brutal dissection of a marriage, exposing all the dark, twisted machinery that was humming just beneath the surface the whole time. So let's look at our two players here. You've got Amy, who is just one of the most mesmerizing villains in modern fiction. She's ruthless, a master of performance. And then you've got Nick, her perfect counterpart, charming but passive, deeply flawed and a liar in his own way. They are, as one critic so perfectly put it, in a toxic equilibrium. Two people locked in a battle that's fueled by mutual manipulation.
This all leads to one of the book's most famous and searing social critiques, the cool girl monologue. Amy describes this cool girl as a total performance. It's a woman pretending to be this perfect, low-maintenance fantasy girl just to win a man's affection. The book basically argues that so many relationships are built on these kinds of fake performances, and it just brilliantly explores the deep, ugly resentment that builds up when that performance finally shatters. So beyond the wild plot, Gone Girl is like a scalpel just dissecting our culture. It completely skewers the sensationalism of the true crime media machine, it dives deep into how gender stereotypes can be twisted and used as weapons, and it asks some truly terrifying questions about who really has control in a relationship.
So what's the legacy here? Why are we all still talking about this book so many years later? Well, its impact goes way, way beyond your typical thriller.
See, the book didn't just give us a killer story, it gave us a whole new vocabulary for talking about the dark side of modern relationships and media. It proved that a thriller could be a total page-turner and a really sharp piece of social commentary. It really did become a cultural artifact. And that's totally reflected in its reviews. I mean, the critical reception was overwhelmingly positive. It's so clear the book struck a major nerve, celebrated for being so intelligent, so fearless, and for giving us these characters that you just cannot forget. And that brings us to the one final, lingering question that Gone Girl leaves you with. In the incredibly complex dynamic between any two people,
Who's actually controlling the narrative? Who gets to write the story where they're the hero and the other person is the villain? It's a question that makes this thriller so much more than just a mystery. It makes it a mirror.